What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage. You can join us over at InsideTheGame.ca, YouTube, and Inside the Game Official, and of course, those fired up networks around the globe for all your beautiful podcasts, and don't forget our streaming services around the world: ESTV, Amazon Prime, Roku, Jinx Esports TV Canada, and a whole lot more. Scott, today's a hot show, dude. We got some hot topics. What do we have today?
Hot show that is correct. We have a little bit of information perhaps on The Last of Us Part 2's remaster. Is it too soon? We'll get into that. The Nintendo Switch 2 details may have emerged from the FTC debacle. And we also have Sony boosting live service R&D into the near future.
Here we go. There's a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. Scott, topic number one, dude, is one of my favorite games of all time, and it was my game of the year back in 2020 because this is The Last of Us Part 2. But now, it could be getting remastered. This is Tom Henderson over at Insider Gaming. In an interview with The Last of Us composer Gustav, he hinted that The Last of Us Part 2 will be getting a remaster. Yeah, here we go again, Scott. It sounds odd to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, but that's exactly what was hinted at by the game's composer in a recent interview with Blender. Gustav's character can be found at the start of the game playing a banjo in Jackson's, and whilst there's currently no way to interact, there's exactly what was hinted at in the interview. According to Gustav, you'll be able to request songs in the new version of the game. Dude, that's kind of cool.
That's an interesting way of letting the cat out of the bag.
A little bit, right? Unfortunately, a remaster per se wasn't actually mentioned, but the hint was led fans to speculate. Of course it has. It's possible that the new feature could be part of a new director's cut of the game too, but whatever the case, it seems like a new version of the game is on the horizon. Sony has released several director cuts in recent years, with the likes of Ghost of Tsushima director's cut and of course Death Stranding's director's cut, both coming to PS5. With the success of The Last of Us HBO show and the delayed The Last of Us multiplayer in the works, we'll see where that comes around, a director's cut for Part 2 makes sense to capitalize on the show's recent success. On The Last of Us multiplayer, Naughty Dog recently said, quote, "We know many of you have been looking forward to hearing more about our Last of Us multiplayer game." Yes, we certainly have. We are incredibly proud of the job our studio has done thus far, but as development has continued, we've realized what our best for the game is to give it more time, end quote. Also sharing, Scott, is, quote, "Our team will continue to work on the project as well as other games in development, including a brand new single player experience. We look forward to sharing more soon," end quote. Hello, Last of Us Part 3. Who didn't predict that one, though? Come on.
Yeah, if you look at the sales numbers, that has to happen eventually, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're only 2 years after the actual release of The Last of Us Part 2.
3.
This is 3 years, sorry. Yeah. In any case, still quite early to be talking about a remaster, which has me wondering. This released as only a PlayStation 4 title, is that correct?
Yes, it did come. Oh, we haven't got it on PC yet, have we?
No.
So we get a director's cut. I'm going on a limb here, predicting a director's cut for PS5 and PC, right? They're starting to branch out a little bit. I know it's only 3 years, which takes a little bit more time than usual for, I think, PC's versions to make their way into the Steam ecosystem, but I think they want to capitalize on The Last of Us still, right? Because it came so hot off of the HBO series that the people... Dude, fans are just looking for more Last of Us. How do you give us that? You give us a remaster. We recently got the remaster of the remastered version of the Part 1, right? Like here's a remaster of another remaster of Part 1, but fans adored it. You and Corey played it and absolutely loved it. And here's the opportunity to keep that momentum going with The Last of Us as we've stalled out on the multiplayer side, Scott.
Yeah, I was really certain the multiplayer was going to capitalize on the tail end of the show here, but
yeah,
in lieu of that, it does make sense that there will be another sort of remastered director's cut. But I'm thinking, what is included in a director's cut that would make it worthy of the title? There's no expansions, I don't believe, right?
Well, so they add little bits here or there, right? Like if we get Gustav's banjo playing song request, there's a nice little add-on feature. We haven't had any DLC for The Last of Us Part 2. This could be an opportunity to introduce maybe a couple other little missions or a tail off or a side character or something along that line. We had left behind when it came to The Last of Us Part 1 DLC. And we never saw anything come around for The Last of Us Part 2. I think we're banking, I think Naughty Dog themselves and PlayStation and Sony, we're looking to bank on the multiplayer side. Bungie steps in, takes a look at it and says, this isn't quite ready, right? Like long term, that doesn't have the legs to keep us involved going forward as fans to stick around for it. Where when you take a look at their games of service model, when it comes to Destiny, dude, it's still pumping out content, right? Players are still in there on a regular basis. And you don't want to lose that, especially with The Last of Us being so beloved. Dude, I just want to live there, right? I want to be there checking in, day out, or at least for the first 3 months, 6 months, being there on a constant basis, and then coming back when the new updates are readily available. But we don't really know anything, Scott, as to what the multiplayer looks like. But when it comes to getting the remaster or the director's cut is what probably is going to happen. They could introduce little tweaks here or there. A newer version of graphics, right, coming off the PS4 to the PS5 is a major leap, believe it or not. Even though PS4 looked great, there's still room to jump that up when it comes to the PS5. Frames per second, all the boosts are going to be there, right? All those bells and whistles you expect on current gen consoles.
I'm wondering if there's a bit of engineering happening here. Just a little bit of, we'll put it on PlayStation 4 and we'll have it out a little bit sooner. But that also has the added benefit of now we can remaster it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're working on other titles too, right? We also know that they're currently working on some kind of fantasy title, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And then a single player experience again. So we're getting here, what, The Last of Us Part 3? You have to assume that that's coming at this point, right? The biggest thing for me is what road did they take when it comes to The Last of Us Part 3? Do we go with Abby's story? Do we go back and get in the beginning of hers, almost like a prequel in a sense to The Last of Us and Abby's upcoming into her side of things and the factions that are growing there? There are opportunities to spin this off in so many other directions that doesn't focus on Joel and Ellie anymore, right? They're able to move on and branch out, and there's opportunity then to keep this going for not only years, but probably decades to come when you introduce so many characters. We got Bill's character alone. You could probably get into his upcoming too. There are ways, dude. What if they just made a game that brought in everybody's side stories and connected it into The Last of Us Part 3? You know what I mean?
That'd be excellent. I think that's kind of what I was hoping out of the multiplayer, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't really know what we're getting with the multiplayer as of right now. They have mentioned we were supposed to get it this year. I don't think we're getting it this year anymore. I think now it's going to get pushed to 2024 as they figure out their roadmap for what that looks like. And I'm okay with that, as much as I'm disappointed because I just really want to play the game. I'm okay with them figuring it out so that we're able to stick around versus rushing it out the door. And then we get in this Halo Infinite situation where people jump in early and then just vanish, right? I don't want that to happen.
You do not want that. That is a cheapening of the brand in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody loves The Last of Us, so more Last of Us on the way. Scott, topic number 2 is the Nintendo Switch 2 to launch as early as 2024. This comes from Mike Straw, Insider Gaming. It seems like every month there's a new rumor about the Switch 2. Yeah, can we just get it already? This time around, it comes from court documents from the recent case between Microsoft and the FTC, which is still ongoing, Scott. Well, we look forward to those days getting behind us.
Still not over.
Nope, it's not. In a paragraph discussing why Microsoft doesn't track Nintendo's sales performance as opposed to PlayStation, the company mentions the successor of the Switch. Quote, Switch was released 3 years earlier, and Nintendo is expected to release the successor to the Switch as early as next year, whereas PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S are at a different stage of the console life cycle, end quote, the court document said. Microsoft belief that the next Nintendo Switch is coming as soon as next year goes along with recent reports from companies like Ubisoft talking about the next console. Yeah, we've heard rumors about that in the past as well, haven't we, Scott, from Ubisoft? That said, Nintendo's president, Doug Bowser, dude, that's legendary. I don't know how he was able to swing that in there, but either way, good for him, has gone on record saying that the company thinks the Switch has a few years left. Man, why? Scott, can't we just move on to the next Switch? Let's go.
Yeah, we're almost 10 years on. Well, no, we're getting closer to 10 years than we are to 5.
Yeah, but when Doug says there are a few years left in the Switch, I really don't know, man. Because if we would have had the Switch 2 for Tears of the Kingdom, that would have brought that whole game to that next level. I felt it was actually held back by being on current hardware. As good as the game is, I understand that. Don't come at me. I know, right? I'm still playing and enjoying the game. I'm right there with you. But when you take a look at where Xbox Series X and S is and the PlayStation 5 versus the Nintendo Switch, I think we're overdue to get into that next cycle. But when the Switch 2 comes out, Scott, are they going to be current with PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, or are we going to still be down in like 1080? Like, will they catch up to 4K, you think?
Oh, 4K is an interesting thought, because I hadn't really even expected it. Being Nintendo, I know they're going to go with a little bit muted statistics or ability, but will that really hold them back? I feel like it won't. And Nintendo might confidently take a step like that. We don't need 4K, we don't need this, that, because everybody will just buy it up anyways. And it's a very, well, kind of arrogant way of selling your console, because they know you will indeed buy it.
Well, that's just it, right? Everybody will jump on whatever the next Switch 2 looks like. Do you think they stay portable? Do they go back to the more of the console connected to your TV? Or do they go mobile still, Scott? Are they keeping it light, I guess we'll call it?
I think it will stay mobile. I think even through this FTC court, they other Nintendo so much, put them on a different kind of tier. And I think Nintendo actually thrives from that. I think they will thrive from being the mobile only. These are the people that brought us the Game Boy, after all, and that is kind of their own unique corner in the market.
It is, right? I think we're kind of shocked at this point that we haven't seen a Vita 2 at a PlayStation, because we have seen such success coming out of the Switch that we wondered if we were going to get that. Instead, we're getting Project Q, which is a streaming handheld to go to your PS5. Where Xbox has just gone mobile only, really, kind of, right? Like, they've gone in other directions as well, not coming out with their own handheld version of the Xbox, but instead allowing you to tap in with other devices and get in your Xbox that way. Where Switch has just gone, we're giving you a portable system on the go, and that blew up. The Wii U tanked. They had to come out quickly to kind of revitalize where they're going to be back in the industry to keep them surging forward. Because, yeah, the Wii U success wasn't a success at all. It was one of their worst consoles of all time, right? So when you get into the success of the Switch, they're nervous. We've also heard, too, right, that they are nervous to see what they have to do to iterate to push the next Switch forward. Is it going to be enough? I'd love to see them bring in an OLED screen with a 4K resolution. Like, let's really powerhouse this thing up. But when you talk about Nintendo and their performance and their specs, they've always been undercutting the current generation, and it hasn't seemed to bother them yet, Scott.
No, sales still go strong to this day for the Switch.
Absolutely. Do you think we get the Switch 2 next year?
I think next year is still a little soon. As much as Nintendo is really, really hurting for an upgrade, I think it's still, we haven't seen anything about it, so I'm hesitant to say next year still.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do we get the Switch 2 first, or do we get GTA 6 first?
Oh, surely it has to be the Switch, surely.
I would be surprised to see GTA 6 first. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Hit us up over on Twitter, the official ITG. When are we getting the Switch 2? Scott, topic number 3 brings in Sony is reportedly boosting its PlayStation R&D spending to drive its live service push. This has to come on the wake of the FTC kind of giving its rights over to Activision Blizzard for Microsoft, but even though that's still not done and ongoing, this is still in the wake of all that. I would guarantee it, right? They have to get ready for what the next push is, and we do know that they've been working on their live service games. But this is Tom Ivan over at VGC. Sony reportedly plans to increase research and development spending on its gaming business by about 10% this financial year. According to Nikkei, Sony Interactive Entertainment's R&D spending during the year end of March 2024 will total 300 billion yen, which is basically $2.17 billion, Scott. That will represent around 40% of the group's total R&D spending for this period, surpassing investment in its electronic and semiconductor businesses. The R&D spending at PlayStation is being used to help drive the company's push into live service games. Sony reiterated in May that it's planning to have 12 live service games in the market by its fiscal year ending in 2026 of March, up from the 3 during last year's business end of March as well. Scott, dude, they have to push, right? They are on a big push. We just saw Marathon announced not too long ago. Fair Games out of Haven announced as well. Neither one of those really had anything to showcase besides a cinematic trailer, which is always annoying to see, to be honest. At this point, we really want to see what we're getting into when it comes to the meat and potatoes of the game. Show me the gameplay. This is something we talk about a lot here on the show, is the fact that we don't want to see cinematics anymore. Cinematics are for setup to get you so far, right? But at the end of the day, from a gamer's perspective, dude, I want to see, what am I playing? What is the objective of this game? And so forth. But at this point, 12 live service games, Scott, I feel like they've cooked the whole thing of spaghetti and just thrown it at the wall, and we're going to see which piece of spaghetti sticks, and we're going to kind of go with that.
Yeah, I was thinking 12 is an awful lot. I thought I had seen 11, the last number given, so it's growing it seemingly. But I think you're right. In any case, it's a bit of a shotgun effect and see what actually sticks. And do you think 12 is a little bit too much, though? Do you think that's a little too decentralized?
In 2026, there's not enough room for all of those games to survive. There's not enough room for me to play 12 games, dude, that you have to jump in on a regular basis to see what's going to be around. Is the Last of Us faction, we talked about this at the top of the show for Factions 2, is that one of their live service games? Absolutely, probably is, right? Then you have Fair Games. So if you go down the list, you can start to kind of pick out which ones are coming, but there are definitely some we haven't heard of as well. I think one of these days, Scott, we'll have to make a list for ITG, the actual main show, besides our new show here, and kind of get into the nitty gritty of what these live service games are going to look like. But 12? Man, that is way too many when you talk about all the other games that are already currently out there that aren't just PlayStation centric, right? We get into Fortnite, you get into PUBG, you get into Warzone, like the list goes on. And then all of a sudden now you get 12 at a PlayStation. Dude, not all of these are going to survive.
No, that's what I'm worried of. I'm not sure that many will survive at all. When you have single studios that kind of... Anthem comes to mind, just cannot seem to get it all together. Anthem in particular, and the teams behind that had a lot more issues to worry about. But
absolutely.
Just that worry that maybe somebody just fumbles the ball and half of these 12 don't make it to market. But I suppose that is the point of having so many projects on development.
Right? Hopefully something does stick and that is able to survive and keep them going, especially in the wake of, Call of Duty being over there. They need to come up with something that in 10 years is still going strong. We talk about Bungie often with Destiny, how that's still going today. We're kind of getting in the same vein of they need another Destiny, but make it PlayStation exclusive. So that holds gamers in there, right, on the PlayStation side to go up against when Call of Duty, I'm just saying, man, Call of Duty goes exclusive in 10 years, right? They need that footwork already cemented in place to be able to keep PlayStation. I don't think PlayStation's struggling by any means, right? They nail the first party, like their first party single player content is above anybody else, right? They are the number one when it comes to it. And some of the single player experiences are just unbeatable, really. So when they look at the market and go, what are we missing? It is that live service. PlayStation's been missing that live service experience forever. And this is their call to try and get it figured out. But the live service games will account for 55% of its PlayStation 5 development budget during the current business year, rising to 60% in the fiscal year ending in March 2026. Dude, 12 games by 2026, though? Like, that's only 3 years away.
Yeah, that's... these projects are not started today, of course.
No.
But that is quite a short time span we're talking about.
Absolutely. PlayStation Studios boss Herman Hulse said in May that Bungie is helping to vet all of Sony's in development live service games. We saw them come in and say that, hey, you know, Factions 2 just isn't set up properly. This is why they purchased Bungie, to help them get this live service experience up and running properly, so that it does have longevity in the end. I think this is a great move. I'm terrified. 12 games. There's just so many.
I'm wondering if we're going to see them pull a lot of IPs off of ice and kind of rebirth them to try and make this live service fit, or if we're going to see an original IP, and I hope to see an original.
Well, so there are rumors too of Horizon getting that Monster Hunter experience, right? When we kind of get into that realm too. Dude, here's like, yo, if you want to live in one world right now, that's one for me. I'm down for that. Monster Hunter experience is fantastic. And all of a sudden now you bring it into Aloy's story. You don't make her the main character. Obviously you build out your own character and customize it, and RPG elements to this, that, and the other. But you have her kind of lead the charge in the direction of how we need to survive in that world. Man, that could be something that just goes on going forever. We know that Guerrilla is currently working on that. That's in development. So there's another title coming out. So maybe this actually kind of works, but you're then split between so many games. How do you keep them all up and running?
Yeah, we will see most of them fall away.
Unfortunately, yeah, we definitely will. Which, you know, that's just part of business at the end of the day. I'm really curious about Fair Games with Haven Studios and how that one's going to survive. Jade Raymond's been around in our industry for so long. She's a talented individual and has a talented team, right? They have vets that have been there for so long and have worked, and she's worked with for who knows how long over the years. And we've seen her go from EA to then Stadia, and then now over to form her own studio, which then got purchased by PlayStation. So here we are, you know, back around we come, but hopefully, but she's, you know, back with Assassin's Creed, back with Splinter Cell. She goes all the way back. She's been around for so long. I'm definitely excited to see what that team pulls off. Whether or not it lands, time will tell. Scott, happy Friday, buddy. We got a couple games out today. What are we playing this weekend?
Just a few, but starting off with Exoprimal. That's on PlayStation 4, 5, the Xbox One, XS, and PC. Jagged Alliance 3 has released on PC. Invector Rhythm Galaxy, also on PC. Petchka Historical Story Adventure, again on PC.
What is that?
And I'm unsure. We have Words of Wisdom on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, X, and S. Catch and Cook Fishing Adventure on PC. Sounds a bit like your weekend.
Ah, man, I can't wait to go fishing. I'm going next weekend, hopefully. Fingers are crossed. But, dude, Exoprimal is out. We'll be reviewing that. It is in the works currently, so make sure you stick tuned to ITG. So we got a lot in the works. Scott, the show is almost over, buddy, but before we go, what are you playing?
Oh, I still have that Mass Effect playthrough that I'm gonna have to leave alone for a little while, because this weekend's all about Exoprimal. I've been waiting to kind of see how this one plays out, and I want to get my feet in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be right there joining you as well, and I'm still dabbling in Hogwarts, and of course, you and I are always on Siege. That's just a never-ending nightly event at this point. But everybody, this is going to wrap up ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage.
We'll see you inside the game.